Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now down here today in my studio, and I am going to talk to you about lighting. In today's video, we're going to look at a solution that for me, I think is going to be about perfect for my studio situation. Now bottom line is this, a drop ceiling and something like in my particular case, I'm down in the basement, have a drop ceiling. I'm leveraging what I would consider to be a new work light. So in other words, a new work box with a light. Now, in this particular case, LED lights, they sit on a dimmer switch, but that's kind of at this point, I guess a little bit slightly older technology. We're advancing, we're moving forward. And well, today, a totally different solution, which here from Lumary. So Lumary, a maker of smart LED lights. Here are the Wi-Fi LED downlights. These are 6-inch lights, 13 watt, 1100 lumens. And here I have myself a 12-pack. Enough to do my studio, get everything completely outfit, and give me the control I'm looking for, not just for general lighting, but for my filming as well. So in today's video, we're gonna go through these in complete detail. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now, before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Lumary who did provide these for review. And so again, as we get into these Lumary lights, this here is a 12-pack. You can get these in a number of different pack sizes, all the way from singles to 4 or 6 lights. And in this particular case here, I have myself a 12-pack. Now, 12 is going to be the critical number for me. I have 9 studio lights that I need to take advantage of, and then I also have a couple of additional lights where these will come into play. So you can see here as we get into this is actually technically 3 4-packs. And so as we look at these in detail, fully Wi-Fi ready. These do sit on your Wi-Fi network. You have accessibility via an app, and we have looked at other solutions from Lumary. So if you take a look at one of my prior videos, you'll see that I did look at a prior solution, so a slightly different product. Now, those were intended for a different application. These are more the appropriate product for this particular setup. So you'll see as we get into these here, these are actually made to fit right inside my recessed cans. You can see this does come with your start guide, pretty straightforward. And then the LED lights themselves. So 2 and 2 as we remove these from the pack. Now, these aren't gonna look too much different from your typical LED lights, with the exception being, again, these are Wi-Fi ready. Very simple construction. Your 6-inch can, you can see the nice bezel. The LED on the inside with a nice diffused lens. A little bit of rattle there, but it shouldn't be a problem. Here you have your connector. So this is very simple. These easily thread right up and into the socket in your typical cans, in your typical lights. So this is going to be very simple for my ability to swap out the existing lights in a mere matter of seconds and get these upgraded to a full LED, and most specifically a Wi-Fi ready LED. So again, 13 watts, 1100 lumens, and these range everywhere from 2700 Kelvin to 6000 Kelvin in a full LED RGB range. So incredible capability from such a simple package, but very, very nice from Lumary. Where things will get a little bit difficult, currently I am running this entire space off of dimmers, and these should not be run off of dimmers. The way you're going to dim these and program these is through an app on your phone. So there is a Lumary app, which as we take a look at it here, this is the Lumary app. As we open the Lumary app, you will have the ability to add devices So adding the devices will allow us to get these up and operational on the Wi-Fi network. You will leverage your cell phone. You can use either Android or an iPhone, so both should be suitable for this application. And if this whole thing works out for me after my testing, I will swap out my dimmers for standard switches, and that, quite frankly, is probably the hardest part of this entire job. Swapping out these lights will be very easy. You do definitely want to turn off the power, so that's going to be the first thing. I'm simply going to kill it at the switch, which now with them off at the switch, very straightforward. Depending on the lights that you have, they will pull out one of a number of different ways, and in my case, these just simply unscrew. Getting my new lights into place just as easy. But at this point, setting these up and into place, you're going to want to press these in and kind of twist them a little bit to the right. Not terribly difficult, and they will sit nice and flush. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for me because I am pushing up against these recessed panels, getting everything to sit down nicely. You can see these are a good flush fit. Everything nice and tight up against the tiles, and these look really good. It's a clean install. No gap, and everything fitting nice and tight. We'll see over time how these stay in place. Sometimes vibrations, people banging on the ceiling above you could cause these to fall down. I'll keep an eye on it, but they do feel firm. Just takes a little bit to press them up into place, kind of quarter turn them to the right, and they sit nice and flush. Now just taking a real quick look at the Lumaries against your standard construction. Again, this is a standard inset LED. You can see here this is Duracell brand, has some slightly different clips that hold these into place, and I can say that without a doubt, if these hold nice and tight, the installation of these is going to be very, very easy. In terms of the look, very clean, no real significant difference. They're pretty similar, slightly different design, but not too much different. You can see in terms of the diameter, just about exactly the same. And these have a little bit of sort of like a gasket. These do not, but I do believe that the Lumary should sit nice and tight against the tile, so I don't expect any issue for air gap or anything like that. So hopefully in the long run, these will work out well, but at this point, I'm going to swap out all the rest of the lights in the office, and then we'll turn the corner, get into the app and some of the programming. Now, just a little bit of a detail. Depending on what kind of cans you have, mine are adjustable on the inside. There are set screws, and I was able to loosen mine, drop the actual inside of the can down just to or below the surface of the ceiling, which is giving me what I need for the lights to sit nice and flush. When this was too deep inside, you can see it does have about 3/4 to an inch of travel. When that was too deep inside, the lights were sitting nice and tight, but it was actually pulling my panels up. So by dropping this down, now the lights can sit in there nicely and not put too much tension or pressure on the panel, which should leave it flush on each one of my sort of brackets here. So the actual grid holding this now in the appropriate place, and you'll see once I get the light put in that these fit fairly tight and flush without too much in the way of gap all the way around. So it's pretty good. I could probably leave that can just up, and I would say maybe even with the panel itself, and that would be the tightest possible fit for these lights. But generally going in very easy, not a heck of a lot to it, just a little bit of an adjustment that needs to be made on some of these cans. And so now with all of the lights in place, again, I'm still running off of the dimmers, but I'm going to keep them as high as possible. Flipping on the lights, you're going to see these are all going to blink. They're looking for the Wi-Fi. They don't know where they're at. You got to run the app, and the app's going to help with the connectivity of the lights to the system. So at this point, it's time to dive into the app. Which again, Lumary does have its own dedicated app. You're going to install the app out of your app store, whether or not it's Apple or the Google Play Store. You do need to set up an account, so I have set up an account. Pretty straightforward, not a heck of a lot to it. Now, once we're in the app, you do need to add devices. Now for me, I already do have the app running because I'm using Lumary lighting outside. So I do have exterior lighting that also leverages the app. So it's very convenient for the fact that I do have multiple products that run off of the same app and it falls into one system. Now hitting the plus button, I am going to add a device. So adding a device, I can choose a number of different things. I have ceiling lights. I have all kinds of different options here. So I'm going to click the BLE plus Wi-Fi lights. You need to make sure that you have your Wi-Fi turned on and you're logged into your Wi-Fi, and you also need your Bluetooth device turned on. So now at this point with the lights blinking, I am going to add a device, and it does say to switch them off and on, off and on. Keep the time interval not too short. Let's see what happens. Confirm the lights have flashed or breathed. They are currently flashing. Finding my Wi-Fi and logging on. And at this point, it says these devices are being added. I have 9 lights. It is adding 9 lights to my system. So it immediately found these. These are all looking for my Wi-Fi. And even though they're blinking and it looks crazy, everything is going according to plan. So these can be a little bit frustrating at this point. Again, I have everything installed properly. I'm on my Wi-Fi. I've actually set up all the lights. It's already detected all of them. I've added them all. I created a group to allow me to turn on and off all the lights remotely on my phone. And as I turn the lights back on, that's all these things want to do is flash. I cannot get them to stay on solid. In fact, only one of my lighting circuits at this point is on solid. The rest of them flashing like crazy. So 5 out of the 9 lights are driving me absolutely crazy. So lights 1, 2, and 3, now those are off. And lights 5 and 6, now those are off. You'd think I'd be good. Turning these on one at a time. Light number 1, nope, not gonna work. Light number 2, nope, not gonna work. Light number 3, nope, not gonna work. If I get rid of this group altogether, let's see what happens. So yeah, these just, well, they seem to be coming back on and behaving. Let's see if light number 4 will behave. Actually, that's 5 and 6. So 5 and 6, now they're not behaving. So I got 1, 2, and 3. 4, 7, 8, and 9 are all working properly. But number 5 is just now misbehaving. I don't understand this. So far, I cannot get these lights to properly connect all at once without blinking. So more to be had. Hang tight. I cycled the power off and back on for 5 and 6. 5, 6. 5 back on. 6 back on. Maybe that fixed it. I don't know. So 5 and 6 now off. 4. That's better. 3. 2. And 1. Those are now seemingly behaving. So now with all of the recessed lights off, let's see what happens. Now, I know you're not going to see all of these, but you should see them kind of lighting up. Number 1, that worked. 2, that worked. 3, that worked. 4, now 4 is blinking again. 5, that worked. 6, that worked. 7, so now that lighting circuit is blinking. Oh man, so that's 4, 7, and then 8 and 9 are probably gonna blink. Yep, so those are blinking. 7 says offline, and now it's back online. But I can turn it off, but when I turn it back on, It's blinking again. I do not understand this at all. So now 4, 7, 8, and 9 are misbehaving. Oh, now 7's connected, which means 4's connected, which means 8's connected, and now 9's connected. So there's like a latency here that I just cannot understand, but I feel like at this point they do all seem to be properly communicating for the most part. So honestly, a little bit frustrating here, but at least it does seem like these lights are now properly communicating. So I don't know. I'm not sure if these will survive, because if I have to go through this just to use them, it's completely non-functional. So more testing to be had. All right, so here we are. It's actually a couple days later. I've been playing with the lights, trying to get them dialed in. And at this point, I think things are pretty well behaving. It's taken me a bit to fight through getting these programmed, but at this point, I can operate the lights. I just literally need to do them individually. So all 9 of my lights, I do need to turn on and off individually. Now, I left my studio. I've been at work for the past couple days. The lights were off. I came back in. I turned them all on, and lo and behold, well, everything works with exception that a couple of them might blink for a couple of seconds, and then they kind of figure things out and square themselves away as they connect to the network. Now, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm questioning whether or not the lights are jumping off of my 2.4 gigahertz and jumping onto the 5 gigahertz connection. If that's the case, it might not be so clean. And, just while I'm at it, I'm just going to kill the power real quick, turn the lights back on, and let's see if they maintain. Flipping all the switches here to off and back on. I bet you these start flashing. Oh, no, they're doing pretty good. So that is a much better place than where I've been. I think I could get away with these at this point and should probably leave it alone, but I am going to take one more step. I got myself a 2.4 gigahertz network extender that's standalone. If I want to, I can actually, at this point, get on my phone on the 2.4 gigahertz extension, reprogram the lights to that network, and then they cannot jump over to the 5 gigahertz connection, at least from what I believe. So that might be a step that I'm going to take, but we'll see if it gets to that point. But while we're at it and while things are behaving as I go through the app, now I'm basically going to pick the very last light in this run. So for me, that's light number 7. So turning that off and back on. Clearly you can see that it works hitting the buttons here. And now as we move forward, I can go into each individual light and I can program them. Now there are some scenes and what they call scenes, and the scenes are pre-programmed. So let's just say I go to read. Well, that's going to make the light a lot cooler. So it's like a bright light. So it's not only adjusting how dim or how bright it is, but also the color temperature. Then there's night. So night is going to dim the light down, but it's also going to make it warmer. If I click working, well, working's pretty much full blast, full white light. So it's the brightest and the easiest and clearest to see. And then you can get into soft. So soft, again, dimming the light down. But then they have all sorts of different sort of color modes. So if it was a seasonal thing, you could theoretically get into orange, you could get into different greens. So depending on the season and what you're trying to do, you can see that the light is clearly changing color. That's kind of a blue. This one here is a bright green. So again, if it's seasonal or you're trying to accent a certain way, you get the full range of color with the LEDs. Now in a perfect world, I should be able to take all of these lights and group them all together. So if they are going to behave, I can actually grab the lights. I can build a custom scene. So they're going to call this a group. So it's create a group. I'm going to click on create a group and I'm going to add my lights to that group. So in this particular case, I am going to grab all of them. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Saving that group. You can name the group. So I'm basically going to name this Studio All. So Studio All, which is literally this entire setup. I'm going to save that. And when I do that, it allows me to set the scene or control all the lights together. So if I enable the Studio All button and hit power, everything should have gone off and eventually did. So all of the recessed lights, these are my, camera lights. Those are still on, but all of my studio lights are off and I should be able to turn them all back on, which it worked. It remembers that they were green or that they had different color temperatures. So at this point, the lights are connected to the network and they are literally fully behaving the way I would expect. You can see there's a little bit of a delay when they turn off, but not a big deal. So in terms of functionality, these are working fantastic. It was finicky getting them set up, but I do believe, again, that's because of the 5 gigahertz connection. I had to kick them off of that, get them loaded onto the 2.4 gigahertz connection, and now they're all talking and working flawlessly. So far, very, very good. And so much more customization to go. You can set these for all the different sort of scenarios you're trying to set up. You can create individualized rooms. You can create different groups of lights. So many, many customized features. You can set these to night light. You can make it so that they pulse or dim on and off and have different strobe effects. So really, really cool. Another thing worth noting, you can add these to a voice command. So if you have like Alexa or something like that, if you have different sort of apps that allow voice controls, you can add these to that voice control. Again, really cool. And so again, here from Lumary, the 5 or 6 inch smart Wi-Fi LED downlights, really, really cool, enhancing my studio space. And although it took a little bit to get these set up, I do have to say, I think these look really, really good. And so again, to the people at Lumary, thank you so much for providing these for review. And for the rest of you, if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless 2 channel, which is more on the tactical and firearm side of things. At this point, that channel is growing quickly. I have a ton of videos up there. So if you like what you see here on Outer Limitless, do me a favor and check me out on Outer Limitless 2. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.